Queen Aerolith sat upon her throne, her eyes scanning the grand hall filled with her advisors, generals, and nobles. The chamber was alive with the hum of conversation, but her mind was elsewhere. The Xylarian Empire had faced no real threat in decades, and yet, reports of a strange new species had begun to reach her. Stories told of humans, small, fragile creatures by Xylarian standards, but warriors of incredible skill and courage. Many dismissed them as myth, the sort of tale told to frighten children or impress diplomats. Not Aerolith. She was curious, but she would not allow herself to believe in legends. Outside the palace, her fleet had engaged a small contingent of the hostile Korath forces. These aliens were ruthless, and their ships moved with precision and brutality. The Xylarians had always prided themselves on their military strength, but recent reports from the frontier suggested that the Korath were stronger than expected. Aerolith's council had called for immediate action, yet she felt an unusual sense of unease. It happened suddenly. A lone ship appeared in the outer sector, moving with speed and precision that no Xylarian technology could match. Sensors detected its path. It weaved through asteroid fields effortlessly, dodged Korath fire, and in moments destroyed 3 enemy cruisers before retreating into the nebula. The council erupted in chaos. Many demanded immediate attack. Some whispered that the vessel could be a new weapon sent by the Korath. Queen Aerolith remained calm. She studied the ship on her holographic display. The signature readings were unlike anything she had seen. "Bring it to our attention," she commanded. "I wish to meet the pilot." Minutes later, the human emerged from his ship. He was tall by human standards, lean but muscular, and carried himself with quiet confidence. His armor was simple yet functional, and his eyes were calm, intelligent, and focused. Commander Alex Kane had no idea who awaited him in the Xylarian capital. He had come because he had promised to aid civilizations under threat, not for recognition or reward. But as he entered the throne chamber, he felt the weight of countless eyes upon him. The queen rose as he approached, her form towering and regal. "You are said to be a warrior of legend," she said, her voice steady but curious. "Many believed humans were nothing but stories. Are you truly as you appear?" Kane nodded simply, meeting her gaze. "I am," he said, "and I am here to help." A murmur ran through the court. Xylarians were not accustomed to humility. Kane's quiet confidence unsettled many of them. One of the generals stepped forward. "If this human is truly a warrior, he must prove himself. The arena awaits. There he will face our elite fighters. If he survives, then perhaps your tales are true, Your Majesty." Queen Aerolith considered the proposal. Testing Kane in the arena would demonstrate both his skill and his courage. She nodded. "So be it. Let the trial begin." The arena was massive, carved from the living rock of the planet itself. Thousands of Xylarians gathered to witness the event, their eyes bright with curiosity. Kane stood in the center, surrounded by the finest warriors of the Xylarian Empire. Each warrior was armed with energy blades, plasma shields, and advanced combat technology. Kane's weapons were simple by comparison: a pulse rifle, a combat knife, and his own ingenuity. The first wave attacked, fast and relentless. Kane dodged and weaved, using the environment to his advantage. He vaulted over barriers, slid under strikes, and returned fire with precise shots. One by one, the Xylarian warriors fell, impressed and surprised by his speed and tactics. Kane was not the strongest, but he was clever, adaptive, and unafraid. By the time the final warrior approached, Kane was calm and focused. The duel was not merely a test of strength. It was a battle of wits. The Xylarian lunged with a sweeping strike, but Kane anticipated the movement, sidestepped, and used the momentum to disable his opponent without serious injury. The crowd erupted in astonishment. Kane had not only survived but excelled, proving the legends true. Queen Aerolith watched quietly, her expression unreadable. When the arena cleared, she approached Kane. "I underestimated humans," she admitted. "It seems your courage and skill are not myths. But helping my empire will not be simple. You will face enemies not only outside our walls but within them as well. Many will fear your presence," Kane nodded. "I am aware. I do not seek reward, only to protect those in danger. If I can aid your people, I will," the Queen's advisors whispered among themselves. Some were fearful of Kane's influence. Others were curious and excited. For centuries, the Xylarian Empire had relied on tradition and rigid hierarchy. And here was a human showing them a new way, through ingenuity, courage, and calm reasoning. As the sun set over the alien city, Kane was escorted to the palace quarters. He studied the city below, its towers shimmering in the fading light, and thought of the battles to come. He knew the Korath would not wait, and that internal politics could be as dangerous as any battlefield. But he was ready. Human warriors had faced impossible odds before, and they had always adapted. The next day, Kane joined the Queen in her strategy council. He offered suggestions on fleet maneuvers, defensive formations, and guerrilla tactics that Xylarians had never considered. At first, some generals scoffed, but as Kane explained the logic behind each move, their skepticism faded. His strategies worked in simulations, and soon, the council began to see the truth. Humans were not just legends, they were innovators, fighters, and leaders. Yet even as Kane gained respect, threats lingered. Rival nobles whispered in shadows, questioning whether the Queen's trust in a human was wise. Some plotted to undermine him, to turn the people against the human warrior. Kane remained unaware of these schemes, focused solely on preparing for the Korath forces that loomed near. Queen Aerolith observed him quietly, feeling a strange mixture of admiration and caution. She had always believed herself unmatched. Yet here was a human whose courage, intelligence, and calm in the face of danger challenged her assumptions. Perhaps the legends were only half the truth. Perhaps humans could surpass even the greatest of the Xylarian warriors. As night fell, the city of Xylara quieted. Kane stood on a balcony overlooking the alien skyline. He was far from Earth, far from his home, yet he felt a strange sense of belonging. His mission was clear and his resolve was strong. He would prove that humanity was more than myth. He would show that courage, ingenuity, and determination could overcome any odds, even in a universe that had never truly known humans. And somewhere within the palace, Queen Aerolith watched the horizon. For the first time, she understood that a new chapter in her empire's history had begun. A chapter written not by tradition, but by a human warrior who dared to challenge legends. The stage was set. Battles would come. Enemies would test them. And the human warrior calm and... The morning sun painted the Xylarian city in shades of gold and violet. Commander Alex Kane stood among the palace strategists, reviewing maps of the approaching Korath fleet. Unlike the simulations from the previous day, this was real. Hundreds of enemy ships were heading toward Xylara, each armed with devastating weapons. Kane studied the layout of the city, the fleet positions, and the defensive stations. Every variable mattered. Queen Aerolith entered the chamber, her presence commanding attention. She approached Kane and placed a hand on the holographic map. The enemy is near. My advisors suggest a direct defensive formation, but I see your plan differs. Kane nodded. Yes, Your Majesty. A direct confrontation will cost too many lives. We need strategy, precision, and mobility. We can use our knowledge of the system to turn the enemy's strength against them. Some generals whispered among themselves, skeptical of a human leading Xylarian forces. Kane ignored the murmurs. He had learned long ago that fear and pride could cloud judgment, and he would not allow it to interfere with the mission. The plan was daring. Kane proposed splitting the Xylarian fleet into smaller, more agile squadrons using asteroid fields and nebulae for cover. Some units would act as decoys, drawing the enemy into traps. The core fleet under Kane's direct command would strike at the Korath supply lines, crippling their ability to sustain the attack. Queen Aerolith studied the strategy. It is bold, she said. Some would call it reckless. Kane met her gaze. Perhaps. But it is also precise. The enemy expects strength in numbers. They do not expect ingenuity, adaptability, and surprise. The council finally agreed. Orders were sent, ships moved into position, and the city braced for the incoming storm. As Kane prepared his command ship, he looked around at the Xylarians under his leadership. Many were nervous, unaccustomed to thinking beyond traditional methods, yet he saw sparks of potential, the same courage and ingenuity that had carried humans through countless battles. The first Korath ships appeared on the sensors, dark silhouettes against the glowing nebula. Kane issued orders calmly, directing squadrons through hidden paths and setting up traps. The decoy units engaged the enemy, drawing them toward narrow asteroid corridors. Kane watched as the Korath ships moved, falling into the ambush just as he had predicted. Explosions lit up space, illuminating the deft maneuvers of Xylarian pilots who had begun to trust his guidance. Queen Aerolith observed from the palace command deck, her heart racing. The human warrior was doing what she had never thought possible, turning a desperate situation into a calculated advantage. The enemy fleet struggled, confused by the unorthodox tactics, unable to predict Kane's moves. Hours passed and the battle raged. Kane personally led a squadron to intercept a Korath cruiser that threatened the city's main defensive station. His ship darted between enemy fire, exploiting weaknesses and targeting critical systems with precise strikes. Xylarians who had doubted him watched in awe as he maneuvered through impossible gaps, disabling the cruiser without risking civilian lives. Meanwhile, the Korath fleet attempted to regroup. Kane anticipated this and launched a second wave of attacks, targeting their supply and communications vessels. Chaos spread through the enemy lines. Kane's combination of human ingenuity and Xylarian technology turned the tide. Back at the city, civilians watched the battle unfold in the sky. Explosions streaked across space, but they saw hope. Kane's strategies minimized casualties and protected the city itself. Even the most skeptical generals began to recognize the truth. They had underestimated humans, and now it was clear that one human warrior could change the course of an entire war. As the final Korath ships retreated, Kane breathed a momentary sigh of relief. The city was safe, the fleet intact, and the enemy forced into retreat. Yet there was no time for celebration. Kane knew this was only the beginning. Threats would always rise, and he must remain vigilant. Queen Aerolith approached him, her expression both proud and thoughtful. "You have done what no Xylarian could alone," she said. "Your courage, your mind, your methods, they are extraordinary. Humans are no longer myths. They are legends in their own right." Kane nodded humbly. "I do what I can, Your Majesty. I am honored to fight alongside your people." The Queen's advisors watched in silence, some in awe, others in quiet acceptance. Kane had not only saved the city, but had earned the respect of an entire empire. More importantly, he had demonstrated that courage and intelligence could overcome raw strength and tradition. In the days that followed, Kane worked closely with the Queen to strengthen defenses, train the army, and share his strategies with new recruits. Xylarian soldiers adapted quickly, blending human tactics with their own advanced technology. Kane taught them the value of thinking creatively, anticipating enemy moves, and using every advantage available. At night, Queen Aerolith often observed Kane from her tower. She marveled at his calmness under pressure, his humility despite victory, and the way he inspired others to rise above their fears. She realized that humans had something her species sometimes lacked: adaptability combined with unshakable courage. Kane was more than a warrior. He was a bridge between worlds. Over time, Kane became more than a guest in the Xylarian Empire. He was offered a permanent role as an honored strategist and protector. He accepted, knowing that his mission to aid those in need was far from over. Yet he also understood the value of building alliances, of earning trust, and of showing that humanity's greatest strength lay not in technology or power, but in ingenuity, courage, and determination. One evening, after a day of training and strategy meetings, Kane stood on a balcony overlooking the city. The stars glittered above, the nebula casting a soft glow over the towers. Queen Aerolith joined him, silent at first, then spoke. "You have changed my view of humans forever," she said. "I once thought of you as myths, as stories to entertain or frighten. Now I see that your kind can alter the course of empires not through domination, but through courage, wisdom, and action." Kane smiled, his gaze on the horizon. "Thank you, Your Majesty. Humans are nothing if not adaptable. We rise to challenges, no matter the odds. We do not fight for glory, only for what is right." The Queen nodded. "Then let this be the beginning of a new chapter. Your story will be told alongside our own, a legend of courage and unity between our peoples." Kane felt a quiet pride, not in victory alone, but in the bond he had forged with the Xylarians. Together, they had faced an overwhelming enemy, navigated political intrigue, and proven that ingenuity and courage could surpass even the greatest myths. As the first light of dawn touched the city, Kane and Queen Aerolith looked toward the stars, knowing that countless challenges lay ahead. But with trust, strategy, and courage, no obstacle was insurmountable. Humanity had arrived in the Xylarian Empire not as a myth, not as a legend, but as a force capable of inspiring hope, shaping destiny, and standing shoulder to shoulder with the most formidable beings in the galaxy. The human warrior had proven that even in a universe of towering empires and powerful aliens, courage, intelligence, and integrity could shine brighter than any star, and for the first time in centuries, the Xylarian people believed that with the right guidance, even the impossible could be achieved. The battle was over, but the story had just begun.